There is a unique, agonizing silence that fills a home when an adult child walks away. It is the echo of a phone that never rings, the empty chair at the holidays, and the crushing weight of a final, devastating text: "Please do not contact me again." If you are a senior living through this, you know the painful routine. You wake up at 3 a.m., stare at a blank screen, and feel a heavy mix of grief and shame. Society tells us that family is everything, so when a child severs ties, the gut-wrenching assumption is often, "I must have failed as a parent." You hide the truth from friends, pretend everything is fine, and carry this invisible wound alone. Let us address the provocative title directly. When your heart is shattered by someone you raised, it is natural to want vindication or to figure out how to make them deeply regret hurting you. But revenge, guilt-tripping, and emotional manipulation are poisons. In the Buddhist tradition, holding on to anger is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. Instead, making them regret it takes on a radically different, much more powerful meaning. It is not about sending passive-aggressive messages or staging dramatic interventions. The ultimate way to make someone regret losing you is to become a person they would be incredibly lucky to know. It is about taking this painful rejection and using it to build a life so full of genuine peace, self-forgiveness, and quiet joy that your spirit naturally thrives. If your estranged child ever looks back, they will not see a broken, desperate parent waiting by the door. They will see a whole, independent human being. That realization is the healthiest form of regret they could ever experience. The Buddha did not offer a magic formula to bend others to your will. What he offered was a path through the hurt to reclaim your life. Let us walk that path together. Phase 1: Calming the mental storm. Before any true healing or rebuilding can begin, you must first address the sheer chaos unfolding inside your own mind. When an adult child abruptly cuts ties, the human brain perceives this rejection as a profound threat to survival. It immediately goes into an overdrive state of panic, desperately trying to solve a puzzle that has missing pieces. To survive this emotional earthquake and eventually thrive, you must learn to step out of the mental storm. 1. Break the loop of mental movies. Think deeply about where your mind automatically travels during those quiet, unstructured moments of your day. When you are lying in bed at 3 in the morning, or sitting alone with a cup of coffee, does your brain instantly rewind to that final, painful interaction? Do you find yourself obsessively rereading the last text message they sent, analyzing the tone of every single word? Do you imagine alternative realities where you said something completely different, hoping it would have changed the outcome? In the ancient Pali language of the Buddhist scriptures, there is a highly specific term for this destructive mental habit. The word is papanka, which translates roughly to mental proliferation or conceptual expansion. It describes the mind's dangerous, exhausting tendency to take a single, isolated moment of pain and spin it out of control into a massive, complicated web of suffering. Every single time your brain replays the scene of the fracture, it is not playing a faithful recording. Your brain actively edits the memory. With each replay, your child's words seem drastically crueler, your own actions seem infinitely more foolish, and the entire situation feels vastly more catastrophic. You end up grieving not just what actually happened, but 100 distorted versions of it. You must come to a stark realization. When you are agonizing over that final conversation in the middle of the night, you are no longer living in reality. That conversation is over. It exists nowhere except within the confines of your own head. By allowing the loop to play unchecked, you are actively building a mental prison and locking yourself inside it. The fix: you cannot rewrite the past, but you have absolute power to interrupt the mental loop right now. The next time you feel the terrible pull of those mental movies beginning to play, you must physically ground yourself. Place your hand firmly over the center of your chest. Feel the physical warmth of your own palm against your body. Take one very slow, deliberate breath in, and quietly state to yourself, "This is a memory, not reality. Right now, I am sitting in this room, I am safe, and I am breathing." You are not suppressing the memory, you are simply refusing to let it kidnap you. Bring your awareness forcefully back to the present moment. 2. Dodge the second arrow of suffering. To further calm your mind, you must understand a profound Buddhist teaching known as the Discourse on the Two Arrows, found in the ancient texts. The Buddha explained to his followers that when we experience hardship in this human life, we are struck by the first arrow. This arrow represents the raw, visceral, unavoidable pain of existence. In your current situation, the first arrow is the reality of the estrangement. Your child is gone, the house is quiet, and it hurts deeply. That first arrow is an undeniable fact, and that pain cannot be bypassed. However, almost immediately after the first arrow strikes, human beings tend to shoot a second arrow directly into their own wounds. The second arrow is not the event itself but the elaborate, punishing story we attach to it. It is the cruel internal voice whispering that you are a terrible mother or a failed father. It is the voice insisting that you completely wasted your life, that your legacy is ruined, or that you are destined to die entirely alone and unloved. The first arrow causes sharp pain, but the second arrow, the one we deliberately fire ourselves, is what causes long-term, devastating, and entirely optional suffering. The fix: you must learn the crucial, life-saving difference between genuinely feeling your grief and actively becoming your grief. It is perfectly healthy and necessary to admit that your heart is heavy and that you miss your child. Those are pure, honest human emotions, and they deserve space to breathe. But you must absolutely refuse to adopt the permanent identity of the abandoned parent. Your life still has meaning. Do not let this one event define the totality of your existence. Give yourself 15 dedicated minutes a day to sit and cry, fully honoring the pain of the first arrow. Let the grief wash over you. But the moment those 15 minutes are up, you must refuse to fire the second arrow. Wipe your face, stand up, and return to the living world. You are a complex, full human being with a past, a present, and a future, not just a rejected parent. Phase 2: Releasing the illusion of control. Once you have successfully quieted the immediate, blinding storm of panic in your mind, the next critical phase requires you to surrender. Much of human suffering stems from stubbornly fighting reality and desperately trying to control outcomes that are entirely outside of our jurisdiction. True peace requires letting go. 3. Surrender the endless search for why. The human mind is a meaning-making machine. It craves logical explanations and neat conclusions. When you are deeply hurt by someone you love, you naturally demand a clear reason. You convince yourself that if you can just figure out exactly what went wrong, pinpoint the exact moment you failed, or understand their precise grievances, you can somehow fix the relationship or at least find closure. But human relationships are endlessly, frustratingly complex. Your adult child's decision to sever ties was shaped by their own unique perceptions, their personal wounds, outside influences you know nothing about, and life experiences that exist entirely outside of your view. In Buddhist philosophy, there are concepts known as asintya, meaning imponderables. These are things that simply cannot be figured out through obsessive thinking. The inner workings of another person's mind and heart fall perfectly into this category. Constantly searching for the perfect explanation is a dangerous trap. You might spend the next 10 years analyzing every conversation you ever had with your child, and you still may never arrive at a satisfying answer. Chasing the why only keeps you chained to the pain. The fix: you must consciously choose to put the heavy burden of why down. Take a physical piece of paper and a pen. Write down every single burning question you carry in your heart. Ask why they said those cruel things. Ask why they refused to explain their feelings. Ask where you went wrong. Pour every ounce of your confusion onto the page. Once you are done, read the list aloud one time, acknowledging the validity of your confusion. Then, fold the paper carefully and tuck it away in a drawer. You have honored your questions, but you are making a deliberate, conscious choice not to carry them on your back every single day. 4. The art of radical self-forgiveness. Society often promotes a very transactional view of forgiveness. We are taught that you cannot forgive yourself until you have perfectly understood your crimes, apologized profusely, and made tangible amends. But what happens when the other person refuses to speak to you? A heart completely consumed by guilt, regret, and self-condemnation cannot truly heal, nor can it offer genuine love to anyone else. You must confront a profound, universal truth about human nature. The parent you were 20, 30, or 40 years ago did the absolute best they could with the emotional maturity, the financial resources, the psychological awareness, and the coping mechanisms they possessed at that specific time in history. You were likely navigating your own unhealed generational trauma, immense stress, and deep-seated fears. If you had possessed the wisdom you have today back then, and if you had truly understood the long-term impact of your actions, you would have made different choices. That is not a weak excuse, it is simply the reality of how human beings evolve. We learn and grow precisely by making mistakes. Hating the past version of yourself will not bring your child back, it will only destroy the present version of yourself. The fix: radical self-forgiveness, is mandatory. Place both hands firmly over your heart center, close your eyes, and visualize the younger version of yourself trying to raise a child. Speak directly to that younger you. Say out loud, "I acknowledge that I caused harm I did not fully intend. I was deeply imperfect, and I made significant mistakes, but I was doing the absolute best I could with what I knew. I forgive myself entirely for the person I was then." You might feel tremendous resistance to this. You might need to repeat this exact practice every single morning for 6 months before it finally penetrates your heart, and that is perfectly fine. Keep doing it. 5. Embrace impermanence in family roles. One of the most foundational teachings in all of Buddhist philosophy is the concept of impermanence. Absolutely everything in the universe, mountains, empires, human bodies, and human relationships, is in a constant, unstoppable state of flux and change. Nothing remains static. Yet, we suffer immensely because we culturally view the parent-child dynamic as something rigid and fixed. We view our children as permanent extensions of our own identity, assuming the role of parent will always look the same. When a child pulls away, it feels terribly unnatural, as if a physical limb has been severed. The fix: you must fundamentally shift your entire perspective on what a family is. Stop viewing your adult child as a possession, a reflection of your worth, or a fixed role you must constantly manage and oversee. Instead, begin to see them as a sovereign, independent fellow traveler on their own unique karmic journey through life. For a few decades, your paths were deeply intertwined. Right now, their path has veered sharply away from yours. Recognizing that all relationships must evolve and change helps release the desperate, painful need for total control. Letting go of the concept of ownership brings immediate, immense relief to your spirit. Phase 3: The Power of Detached Love. Now that you have started making peace with your own mind and releasing the heavy illusion of control, you must radically transform the way you project your love outward into the world. When someone we cherish deeply pushes us away, our most primal, biological instinct is to hold on even tighter. We want to chase them down and fix the problem immediately. But true spiritual maturity requires learning an entirely new way to love. You must learn to love someone fiercely without trying to possess them, manipulate them, or dictate their choices. 6. Respect the boundary. When an adult child explicitly asks for no contact, there is a desperate, burning urge within the parent to try just one more time. You might feel a nearly uncontrollable compulsion to call them, to write a long, emotional letter defending your actions, to show up unannounced at their home or workplace, or to enlist other family members to pass along guilt-inducing messages. You manage to convince yourself that if you can just find the exact right combination of words, a light bulb will go off in their head, they will finally understand your immense pain, and they will come running back. You must hear this gentle but absolute truth: ignoring their explicit request for space pushes them infinitely further away. Every single time you repeatedly cross the line they drew, you are not proving the depth of your love. You are proving that you do not respect their autonomy or their boundaries. It shifts the entire dynamic. It makes the estrangement entirely about your own desperate need for emotional relief rather than their stated need for distance and healing. The Buddhist concept of equanimity is absolutely vital here. Equanimity does not mean you suddenly become cold, apathetic, or stop caring. It means you care deeply and passionately, but you have developed the spiritual strength to hold that intense love without desperately clutching at a specific, desired outcome. You learn to balance your deep affection with a profound respect for their free will. The fix: you must give them the exact, unbroken silence they requested. It takes incredible, agonizing, superhuman strength to step back and do nothing, but respecting their stated boundary is actually a profound, selfless act of love. Stop making the desperate phone calls. Stop sending the long text messages. Stop trying to gather information about them through siblings or cousins. Give them the vast space they have clearly asked for so they can breathe and process their own complex feelings without feeling hunted. 7. Leave the porch light on. Respecting their boundary and stepping back does not mean you have to vanish entirely from the face of the earth, erase them from your memory, or permanently lock the door on the relationship. You can keep the energetic connection alive, but you must do it carefully, intentionally, and without applying even a single ounce of emotional pressure. Think of it as leaving a quiet, welcoming porch light on in the dark, signaling safety without making any demands. The fix: decide on a very specific, limited time frame, perhaps once a year on their birthday, or at the start of a new calendar year. On that day, send one single, incredibly brief message. Write something remarkably simple, such as, "I love you very much. I am thinking of you today," and there is absolutely no need to respond to this message. Do not include any guilt trips about your declining health. Do not include demands for an explanation. Do not include passive-aggressive remarks about how much they are hurting you. Send the message, physically put your phone in another room, and go about your day. You are simply letting them know the door is unlocked and you harbor no ill will, whenever they are ready. But you must absolutely not spend the remaining days of your life standing in the doorway staring down the road waiting for a response. 8. Detachment versus abandonment. Many well-meaning parents struggle immensely with this specific phase because they fundamentally confuse the concept of spiritual detachment with the act of giving up. In modern Western culture, we are intensely conditioned to believe that if we truly love our family members, we must hold on to them as tightly as humanly possible, fighting for them relentlessly. You might feel a deep sense of guilt, believing that if you step back and focus on your own life, you are essentially abandoning your child in their time of need. The fix: true detachment is not coldness, indifference, or abandonment. It is learning the beautiful, difficult art of loving with open hands instead of tightly clenched fists. When you hold your love with a clenched fist, you suffocate the relationship and crush the other person's spirit. When you open your hands, the love remains fully present and available, but the other person is entirely free to stay or go as they please. You must learn to look in the mirror and say to yourself, "I love my child unconditionally. Because of the sheer depth of that love, I willingly release them to walk their own path, make their own choices, and live their own life, even if that path currently leads them far away from me." This is not giving up or walking away. It is the absolute highest, most liberated, and most selfless form of love a parent can offer. Phase 4. Reclaiming your life and joy. Now that you have learned to step back and love with open hands, you face the most crucial and transformative part of this journey. This is the exact phase where you create the healthy, beautiful regret we discussed at the very beginning of this process. You must actively rebuild a life that is so vibrant, meaningful, and deeply rooted in joy that anyone, including your estranged child, would look at you with profound respect and admiration. You must take your life off pause. 9. Stop pausing your life. The single greatest danger of estrangement for senior parents is not the grief itself. Grief is a natural, flowing emotion that can absolutely be survived and integrated. The true danger is allowing your entire existence to collapse inward and organize itself around a single, agonizing question: will they call today? Far too many parents turn their senior years into a permanent waiting room. They decline social invitations, they stop pursuing their hobbies, and they let their days bleed together in a gray haze of anticipation. While you are sitting by the phone waiting for a reunion that may or may not happen, your precious, finite life is actively passing you by. The seasons are changing outside your window, neighbors desperately need your kindness, and a vast world of new experiences is waiting for you to participate in. In the Eightfold Path, the Buddha teaches the concept of right effort. This principle instructs us not to force outcomes beyond our capacity, but to make a genuine, consistent effort to direct our energy toward things that are wholesome, growing, and alive. Similarly, the Buddhist concept of Sangha, meaning spiritual community, reminds us that when our immediate family structures fracture, we must seek refuge in the broader community of humanity. Your worth and your identity are not entirely defined by your role as a parent. You were a complete, worthy human being before your children were born, and you remain a complete, worthy human being today. The fix: you must make a conscious, daily effort to rebuild an identity outside of your estrangement. Ask yourself what it would mean to decide that, even alongside your grief, you still firmly deserve a beautiful life. Go out into the world and find your new Sangha. Volunteer at a local shelter, join a community garden, sign up for a choir, or start attending a meditation group. Allow yourself to freely receive the abundant love that is available to you in your community right now, rather than spending every single day mourning the specific love that is currently unavailable. Fill your calendar with activities that bring you genuine fulfillment. When you build a life you actually enjoy living, the silence from your phone loses its devastating power over you. 10. Radiate loving kindness as a shield. There is one final, profound step in this healing process. When someone we deeply love walks out of our lives and refuses to look back, the space they leave behind is incredibly vulnerable. If you are not extremely careful, that space will slowly fill with toxic resentment, cold bitterness, and deep-seated anger. Bitterness is an acid that destroys the container it is held in. To prevent your heart from turning cold and hard, you must actively protect it. In the Buddhist tradition, the practice of metta, which translates to loving kindness, is one of the oldest and most powerful tools for spiritual protection. Cultivating loving kindness is the practice of deliberately generating love and goodwill, not as a fleeting emotion we wait to spontaneously feel, but as a deliberate energy we actively create, much like tending to a warm fire in a cold room. One of the most counterintuitive and powerful applications of this practice is directing it toward the very people who have hurt us the most. Sending loving kindness to your estranged child is absolutely not a manipulation technique. It is not a psychic trick designed to magically change their mind, and it is not a desperate plea for them to return. It is purely a shield for your own soul. It is a way to ensure that your heart remains open, soft, and capable of love, regardless of how others treat you. The fix: every single evening before you go to sleep, sit quietly on the edge of your bed for just 5 minutes. Close your eyes and take a few slow, centering breaths. Bring an image of your child to mind. Do not picture them in the middle of your worst argument. Picture them in a moment when things were good between you, perhaps when they were younger. Allow yourself to feel the genuine love you still have for them. Then, quietly and deliberately, send these specific words out into the silent distance: may you be truly happy. May you be free from all suffering. May you find deep peace. May you be well. Say this 4 times. Once you are finished, gently let their image float away, like releasing a paper lantern onto a dark river. You are not clutching at them or making demands. You are simply pouring pure love into the void because you have chosen to be a person of love, no matter what happens. Do this every night to preserve the beauty of your own heart. The journey through family estrangement is undeniably one of the most agonizing experiences a human heart can endure. It forces you to confront your deepest insecurities, your heaviest regrets, and your most primal fears of abandonment. Yet, as the Buddhist path reveals, the deepest suffering often serves as the most powerful catalyst for profound spiritual awakening. By breaking the mental loop of endless rumination, dropping the second arrow of self-blame, and releasing the desperate illusion of control, you are doing much more than merely surviving. You are actively alchemizing your pain into deep, unshakable wisdom. Let us return to the provocative premise we began with, making your estranged child regret their decision to walk away. In the beginning, your ego might have desperately wanted to inflict guilt, to force them to see your tears, or to manipulate them into an apology. But you now understand that vengeance is a poison that only destroys the vessel holding it. You have transcended the need for petty retaliation. Imagine, for a moment, the day your child finally decides to look back. Whether they hear about you through a distant relative, happen to see a photograph of you, or simply reflect on their past during their own quiet moments of growth, what will they see? If you commit to this path, they will not find a hollow, bitter shell of a person standing rigidly by the front door, paralyzed by years of waiting. They will not see a victim who let their entire world collapse the day the phone stopped ringing. Instead, they will see a vibrant, emotionally resilient, and deeply peaceful individual who took a shattering heartbreak and used it to build a beautiful, independent life. They will see someone deeply engaged with their community, surrounded by new friends, and radiating quiet grace. They will realize that in their attempt to distance themselves, they walked away from someone who is entirely whole. They will see an elder possessing the rare, magnificent ability to love with open hands. And in that moment of profound clarity, they will feel the immense, undeniable weight of what they have chosen to miss out on. That realization is the ultimate, most beautiful form of regret. It is a regret born out of deep respect and awe for the person you have become, rather than a regret born out of manufactured guilt. As we bring this reflection to a close, I want to speak to you not as a teacher, but simply as a fellow human being. If you are sitting alone right now in a quiet house, wondering if your life still has meaning without your children in it, the answer is an absolute, unwavering yes. Your worth is not, and never was, a condition of your parenthood. You are not a failure because a relationship fractured. Your life is not over just because a specific chapter has closed. You matter simply because you are a living, breathing human being with an infinite capacity for love, growth, and joy. The possibility for genuine inner freedom is available to you in every single breath you take, especially right now, in the midst of this profound challenge. Keep your heart open. Leave the porch light on. But above all else, turn around, walk back into the warmth of your own life, and live it magnificently.